Hi, I'm Sophia. Today, I'm going to tell you my story. But before I continue, please share, and subscribe to hear more stories like this. My brother Marcus and I were never close growing up. Our parents always treated us differently. Dad pushed Marcus harder in sports and academics, while I focused on school and my photography business. Last summer, everything changed when I landed a major contract with a local magazine. My family was supposed to celebrate with me at the Harbor restaurant downtown. I walked in and saw my parents already seated. Mom waved me over. "Sophia, honey, over here," Mom called, standing to hug me. "Where's Marcus?" I asked, noticing the empty chair. Dad shrugged. "Late as usual. Probably stuck at work again." "Robert, please," Mom said. He texted he'd be here soon. "It's fine, let's just order appetizers," I said, feeling the tension already. The waiter had just brought our drinks when Marcus finally strolled in, 40 minutes late. Sorry, he said, not sounding sorry at all. "Meeting ran long." "I bet it did," Dad muttered. Marcus ignored him and sat down. "So, little sis got a job taking pictures. Cool." "It's not just a job," Mom said proudly. "It's a 6-month contract with Eastern Living magazine." Marcus took a swig of Dad's beer. "Pretty good for a hobby." "It's not a hobby," I said, keeping my voice level. "It's my career." Right, he said, signaling the waiter. "Can I get a scotch, neat?" Dad leaned forward. "Maybe you could congratulate your sister properly?" "I just did," Marcus said with a tight smile. "You called her career a hobby." "Dad, it's fine," I said, not wanting another blow-up. "No, it's not," Dad insisted. "Your brother needs to show some respect." "Respect?" Marcus laughed. "That's rich coming from you." "What's that supposed to mean?" Dad demanded. Mom touched Dad's arm. "Robert, not here." "Let him speak," Dad said. "What exactly is your problem, Marcus?" "My problem is watching Sophia get praised for taking pictures while I busted my ass through business school and got nothing but criticism." "That's not true," Mom said. "Isn't it? Why only an A-, Marcus?" "Second place doesn't cut it, Marcus. Meanwhile, Sophia decides to become a photographer and it's all follow your dreams." "I worked hard to get where I am," I said, feeling my cheeks burn. "It's not my fault if you're jealous." "Jealous? Of what? Your little Instagram business?" "At least I'm doing something I love, not miserable in some corporate job I hate." Marcus's face darkened. "You don't know anything about my life." "I know you're bitter and taking it out on me instead of dealing with your own problems." The waiter approached cautiously. "Are you ready to order?" "We need a minute," Mom said quickly. After the waiter left, Marcus turned to our parents. "Do you hear how she talks to me? And you wonder why I don't come to these family gatherings?" Dad pointed at him. "Don't turn this around. This was supposed to be Sophia's celebration." "Right, because everything's always about Sophia." "That's enough," Mom said firmly. "Both of you, stop it." I stood up. "I need some air." I headed for the door, hearing Marcus follow me. "Sophia, wait!" he called. I stepped outside onto the sidewalk, traffic rushing by on the busy street. "What do you want, Marcus?" I asked, turning to face him. He came up close. "You always do this. Play the victim and make me look like the bad guy." "I'm not playing anything. You ruined my celebration dinner." "Oh, poor Sophia," he sneered. "Always needs to be the center of attention. That's not fair and you know it. Life's not fair. You think I wanted to be the one Dad pushed to the breaking point while you got to follow your little dreams?" I took a step back. "That's between you and Dad. Don't put that on me." "You never stood up for me," he said, jabbing a finger at me. "Not once." "We were kids, Marcus. What was I supposed to do?" "Something. Anything." His face was red now. "Instead, you just soaked up all the praise while I took all the hits. That's not what happened, and you know it." "You have no idea what it was like being me," he shouted, stepping closer. People were staring. I backed toward the curb. "Marcus, you need to calm down." "Don't tell me to calm down," he yelled, moving toward me again. "I'm leaving," I said, turning away. What I remember next happened in slow motion. I felt his hands on my back, shoving hard. I stumbled forward off the curb into the path of an oncoming delivery truck. There was a screech of brakes, a blinding pain, and then darkness. I found out later that I flatlined twice in the ambulance. I had 4 broken ribs, a punctured lung, a fractured pelvis, and severe internal bleeding. The doctors called it a miracle I survived. I woke up 3 days later in the ICU with Mom asleep beside me. When she realized I was conscious, she burst into tears. "Oh, Sophia," she sobbed. "We thought we lost you." My throat was raw from the breathing tube. "Marcus," I whispered. "He pushed me." Mom's face changed. "Honey, you stepped back into traffic. It was an accident." I tried to sit up, but pain shot through my body. "No," he pushed me. I felt his hands on my back. Dr. Reynolds came in shortly after, a kind-faced woman in her 50s. "Sophia, you've given everyone quite a scare. How are you feeling?" "Like I got hit by a truck," I said weakly. She smiled sympathetically. "Well, technically you did. You're stable now, but looking at weeks of recovery here, then months of physical therapy." After she left, I turned back to Mom. "Where's Marcus?" She hesitated. "He's been very upset. The police questioned him about the accident." "It wasn't an accident. He pushed me deliberately." Mom shook her head. "The witnesses said you two were arguing and you stumbled into the street." "That's not what happened." She patted my hand. "You hit your head pretty hard. Memory can be tricky with trauma." Over the next few days, friends visited. My best friend Olivia was there almost daily. "Your Instagram followers are sending so much love," she said, scrolling through her phone. "Did they arrest Marcus?" I asked. Olivia looked uncomfortable. No. Why would they?" "Because he pushed me into traffic." She sat on the edge of the bed. "Sophia, the witnesses said you stepped back without looking." "That's not true. I felt his hands on my back." She squeezed my hand. "Trauma can mess with memories." "I know what happened," I insisted. A week later, Marcus finally showed up with a small plant. "Hey," he said softly. "Can I come in?" I wanted to say no, but needed to hear what he'd say. "Fine." He set the plant on the windowsill. "How are you feeling?" "Like my brother tried to kill me." His face paled. "Sophia, that's not what happened. We were arguing and you stepped back." "Stop lying," I hissed. "You pushed me. I felt your hands on my back." Marcus ran a hand through his hair. "You're confused. It was traumatic, I get it, but I would never do that." "Get out," I said, my voice shaking. "Sophia, please." "Get out!" I screamed, causing a nurse to rush in. After 6 weeks in the hospital and rehab, I was released. Dad came to pick me up, looking haggard. In the car, I asked, "Dad, do you believe me about Marcus?" He gripped the steering wheel tighter. "I don't know what to believe. The witnesses said, forget the witnesses. Do you think your son is capable of doing that?" Dad was silent for a long moment. "Marcus has always had a temper. But to deliberately push you? I want to say no." "But you're not sure." He sighed heavily. "No, I'm not sure. And that scares me." That night, Olivia came over with takeout and movies. "So, what's the plan now?" she asked. "I'm going to prove Marcus did this to me." Olivia sat up. "Sophia, maybe it's time to focus on healing and moving forward. I can't move forward until he faces consequences." "But how are you going to prove it? There were witnesses." "Those witnesses saw what happened after I was already falling. They didn't see him push me." Over the next few weeks, while recovering, I researched. Marcus had a history I hadn't known about. A girlfriend who'd filed a restraining order against him. Complaints at work about his temper. Even a road rage incident settled out of court. One afternoon, Dad found me surrounded by printouts. "What's all this?" he asked. "Evidence that Marcus has anger issues and a history of violence?" Dad picked up one of the papers. "Where did you get these?" "Public records, mostly. Some from friends at his company." He sat heavily on the edge of the bed. "What are you planning to do?" "I want him to admit what he did, and I want him to face consequences." Dad rubbed his face. This will tear the family apart. He already did that when he pushed me into traffic, I said coldly. The opportunity came 3 weeks later when Mom insisted on a family dinner to heal and move forward. During dinner, I was quieter than usual. Mom kept trying to engage me. Sophia, tell everyone about your new project, she prompted. I took a sip of water. Actually, I've been working on an investigation into patterns of behavior. Marcus glanced up. Investigation? Yes, I said, meeting his eyes. Did you know that Marcus has had 3 complaints of aggressive behavior filed against him at work? The table went silent. What are you doing? Marcus demanded. Or that his ex-girlfriend Chelsea had to get a restraining order after he threw a chair through her window. Dad put down his fork. Sophia? Or that he settled out of court after punching another driver during a traffic dispute? That's enough, Mom said sharply. Marcus stood up. This is bullshit. You're just trying to make me look bad. No, I said calmly. I'm establishing a pattern of violent behavior that supports what I've been saying, that you deliberately pushed me into traffic. You're crazy, he sputtered. Tell her, Dad. I have one more piece of evidence, I said, pulling an envelope from my pocket. What's that? Mom asked. I hired a forensic analyst to review the traffic camera footage. They enhanced the images. This was a bluff. I hadn't actually done this. The color drained from Marcus's face. There's nothing to see. It was an accident. Really? The analyst was very clear about what the footage shows. Marcus's hands began to shake. You're lying. There's no footage. Want to bet? The police might be interested in reopening the case. You stepped back, he suddenly shouted. You weren't looking where you were going. Then why do you look so scared right now? Because you're trying to ruin my life, he roared, slamming his fist on the table. Marcus, Mom gasped, his face contorted with rage. You want the truth? Fine. You were always the golden child, getting everything handed to you while I had to fight for every scrap of attention. That night was the last straw. Everyone fawning over your stupid photography job while my promotion got completely ignored. What promotion? Dad asked, but Marcus ignored him. You stood there, so smug, so self-righteous, he continued, voice rising. And I just wanted to wipe that look off your face. The room went completely silent. So you pushed me? I asked quietly. Marcus's eyes widened as he realized what he'd admitted. I didn't mean for the truck to hit you. I just wanted to scare you. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. Oh my God. Dad stood up slowly. Marcus, did you just confess to deliberately pushing your sister into traffic? Marcus looked panicked now. It wasn't like that. I was angry. I wasn't thinking clearly. You nearly killed me, I said. I died twice in that ambulance. I'm sorry, he said, looking horrified. I never meant for... I don't care what you meant. I cut him off. Your apology means nothing. I pressed a button on my phone, stopping the recording I'd been making. The police will be interested in this confession, I said, standing with effort. You recorded me? He asked incredulously. Sophia, Mom pleaded. He's your brother. Not anymore, I said. Not after what he did. I filed charges the next day. With Marcus's recorded confession, the case was straightforward. He was charged with attempted murder, though eventually pled down to aggravated assault. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison. Our family was torn apart. Mom couldn't accept that her son had tried to kill her daughter and kept insisting that with therapy and forgiveness, we could be a family again. Dad cut Marcus off completely. I spent a year in physical therapy, rebuilding my strength and my life. The magazine contract was gone, but my story, carefully anonymized, went viral, bringing me new opportunities. I moved to a different city, started my own photography studio, and built a new circle of friends who knew nothing of my past. I changed my last name legally, severing that final tie to Marcus. 3 years later, I got a letter from Marcus in prison, begging for forgiveness. I read it once, then burned it in my sink. Some betrayals go beyond forgiveness. Last I heard, Marcus was released early for good behavior. He tried to contact me through Mom, who still visits him. I blocked her number after she kept pushing for reconciliation. Dad calls sometimes. He moved out and filed for divorce 6 months after the trial. He's trying to rebuild his life too. My studio is thriving now. I'm dating someone who makes me feel safe, and most days no one notices my slight limp. The only physical reminder of what happened. The emotional scars take longer to heal. I still have nightmares sometimes, of falling, of bright headlights, of flat lines on heart monitors, but they're less frequent now. The hardest lesson wasn't about Marcus. It was about trust. How do you learn to trust again when someone who was supposed to love you tried to end your life? That's something I work on every day. So, my question for you is, have you ever had someone you trusted completely betray you? And if so, did you find a way to trust again afterward? Let me know in the comments below.